Welcome back to Amazon Unpacked. Today we are going to be talking about worker power in the form of strikes, walkouts, collective action, all the legal aspects of that, what's protected, what isn't, and how we build the power to do it. I am one of your co-hosts, Ira. I am a longtime member of Amazonians United New York City. I also in the past have been a member of other unions, Teamsters at UPS. And today I am joined by one of my coworkers, Kenny, and Linda, two other longtime Amazon workers. Do y'all want to introduce yourselves?
So I'm Linda. I have been at Amazon for 3 years now. I'm a member of Amazonians United and have been organizing in a delivery station in Maryland, in the DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia area. And I previously, this is, my first independent union organizing, but previously I also have some union experience working with other like Workers United and SEIU and Change to Win, various other kind of more established unions.
Hi guys, I'm Kenny. I've been a member of Amazon as of 12 days ago, 3 years. Been part of Amazon United for almost 2 years already, and trying to make a difference. I've been a proud member of IBEW / Local 3 since I was 20 years old. So what's that? No, 22. So 23 years, and I've been around the block trying to make a difference for a long time.
So in addition to working at Amazon and organizing our independent union here, Amazonians United, you're also an electrician and a member of the electricians union for a couple decades now, right?
Yes, sir.
Very cool. All right. So as we said, today's topic is collective action, where the real power of workers lie. Called protected concerted activity is the legal name. Another basic name for it is just people power. So let's get started and talk about what protected concerted activity is, what the law protects, what it allows us to do. In the early 1900s, workers were going on strike en masse, literally millions of workers. And the government was under pressure to kind of start doing right by workers. And they passed this law, the National Labor Relations Act in the 1930s, that gave us the right to strike to improve our workplaces. And it's not just to go on strike. It's to do anything together, as long as we're not, trespassing, as long as we're not breaking, damaging property, and as long as we're not threatening anybody. We have the right to take action together to improve our lives at work. And that's called protected concerted activity. Specifically, it's Section 7 of the National Labor Relations Act. And management is legally prohibited. They're not allowed to do anything to retaliate against us, to intimidate us, to investigate us, to try to stop us from doing this type of action to improve our lives at work.
Essentially, if there are two workers or more engaging in an action that could disrupt work, including leaving the job, they have the right to do that in order to organize to pressure the employer to improve their work conditions. This could include, 7 coworkers going to management and saying, "Hey, you VTO'd too many people, and we're understaffed, and we are now leaving." And in that case, under the law, technically, Amazon has no right to retaliate against you.
Cool. So that's what the law says, Section 7, National Labor Relations Act. So is Amazon going to obey the law at all times? Are they going to just let us walk out, just let us go on strike, or just let us do petitions?
So anyone that has engaged with Amazon in any way knows that Amazon does not respect any laws. They might claim to respect laws, but they often break the law. And this is no different. So Amazon absolutely will and has retaliated against people for engaging in collective activity, unfortunately. They have no right to do so, but they have a lot of power, a lot of money, a lot of lawyers, and the ability to draw out a legal case, right? And defend themselves. We can see them doing that in various ways in other places. So that said, we'll talk more about our action at DMD9, but when we engaged in our various protected concerted activities, Amazon tries not to openly, clearly break the law, but they will allow their managers to do smaller things like what you all are talking about, coming and investigating, asking people what the problem is, and trying to get grievances from people rather than speaking with the group of people that were organizing around the issue. They have actually, with a couple of our coworkers, found reasons to try to fire them or write them up for things that, otherwise they normally would not be written up for. One of the very scary, but one of the things that you really just have to do is be prepared to respond. The only way that Amazon really listens is when there's a collective group of people that are prepared and responding to their illegal activity. One example is in California, where Amazon was retaliating against a union leader, one of the leaders of an organizing committee in an air hub, and she was suspended by the management, and the coworkers were absolutely ready for it, and they went around and had people basically sign a petition saying that they were ready to walk out that Friday if they had not brought her back to work and removed her suspension. And the managers were Amazon was so scared of them walking out that they brought her back to work several days earlier than the deadline, in fact. So it's possible to, even though they will try to break the law and use their tons of money and power and whatever to try to fight us, we ultimately have the power if we stick together with our coworkers to challenge that.
We have the right to take part in this kind of activity. Amazon will break the law and they'll try to get away with it. In 2021, Amazon had more unfair labor practice complaints. They violated labor law more than any other company in the US. I think they had double the amount of violations that Walmart had. I think Walmart and the meatpacking industry, a meatpacking company, were like the second and third worst offenders, but Amazon had twice as many as them. The way you fight it is, like Linda said, number one, we take it on ourselves to enforce the law. We know we have rights. Amazon's going to try to defy those rights, but we take the initiative to enforce those rights, file unfair labor practice complaints. We witness for each other. Mm-hmm. But really where our power comes from is we have each other's backs and show that if Amazon messes with any of us, they mess with all of us. So yeah, and after Amazon violated our rights and tried to stop us from walking out by kind of trying to intimidate us or scare us or whatever, we did file a bunch of complaints with the National Labor Relations Board, which ruled in our favor. And it wasn't just us, it was some other groups of workers as well. And Amazon had to post a flyer on the walls in all their break rooms across the country, every break room across the country, essentially admitting that they broke the law and reaffirming our right to organize. Now, does that mean they won't do it again? No, they'll probably still try to break it again. But the point
They're
is,
still doing it right now, to be clear. When people are trying to collect petition signatures right now, they're trying to kick them off the property, which is something that they already were found in violation of the law for.
Yeah, the site access policy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what do we do when they break it? When they break the law?
Yeah, I think the KSBD organizing example in California is a great example of a committee being ready when someone was retaliated against by management, being ready to all have their back. And that's basically what we need to do. In DMD9, if we are called to be disciplined individually by managers, we demand to have, several of us demand to have a representative in the meeting with us. And that has been extremely helpful because it's hard when it's just you and one or two or three managers. But when you have someone backing you up and validating your point and saying, no, you're not crazy, like it is insane what they're saying. It is actually, it's extremely helpful because it actually not only stops management from engaging in retaliation, but it also deters them. It stops them from even wanting to meet with us because they know we're going to demand a representative, and they're not going to be able to really back up their points.
Yeah, and by a representative, you mean like if they call one of our coworkers in, that coworker can be like, well, I want Linda in the room with me, or I want Ira in the room with me, or I want Kenny in the room with me. A trusted coworker who, in our case, organizes with AU, so they kind of trust that these coworkers know the law, and and it's really just having a witness there, having someone there to validate you and have your back. It's a huge difference. It's a game changer.
Yeah, and to be clear, it's a tier 1 representative, like one of your coworkers who is on your level, because
so associate. Sorry,
yeah.
Glenn.
Yeah, I was just going to say multiple times when we've demanded a representative in our meeting from our coworkers, our managers will say, oh, well, you can have HR or you can have this tier 3 or whatever. And that is not a representative. You absolutely are not represented by HR. HR represents the company.
So this kind of gets into some of the concerns and fears that our coworkers have when we start talking about, let's start building the power to hit Amazon where it hurts. Let's start talking about doing a walkout. Let's start thinking about going on strike. Let's start thinking about, doing a petition, something that holds Amazon accountable. People get scared. Kenny, do you want to talk a little bit about like what you've heard in our warehouse, what some of people's concerns are?
Most people are afraid to. They don't want to be left on an island by themselves. They fear that if they show something, they show force, and they're afraid that if they do it by themselves, they're going to be singled out. They're going to be targeted. They could be fired, and a lot of people are very hesitant, especially over the conversations we've been having with people over the last few months. But if we show that we're together, they seem to be more willing to do stuff. But most people are scared, and I get it. They don't want to lose their jobs. They don't want to lose pay. They want to feed their families just like everybody else. They're just hesitant because Amazon does such a great job of spreading everybody out, not making you feel like you're part of a team. They want to individualize you, and that scares a lot of people.
Got a car alarm.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I would say at DMD9, when we were organizing our walkout, a lot of people were concerned that they would be retaliated against or that they wouldn't have backup from their coworkers. And so one of the things that I think was very helpful was the calls that we had with you all in New York with the other warehouses that were planning to walk out together with us, and having conversations between the coworkers, having us be able to meet each other and see each other on Zoom and say, yeah, we're committed to doing this. We had a walkout pledge sheet that people signed and agreed, kind of putting down their name like, yeah, look, I'm committed to this thing. We got each other together. And that made it a lot stronger in the moment. When we did walk out, people kind of knew who each other was, who was ready to walk out. And then, of course, there's always people that are scared at the last minute and, fall off. But it's also really inspiring when people you really didn't expect to walk out, or people that are more nervous, really feel that power and do engage in the strike.
Yeah, when we did our version of the walk on a boss during stand up, Ira spoke, and they tried to brush it off, and they said they tried to wave off everybody to go to their job sites. If they want to continue to listen to it, you have your right to do so. But they wanted everybody to go in their work areas. But the entire crowd stood with us, so that showed them that we had power right there, and they kind of had to try to deal with it, diffuse the situation right away. It definitely caught them off guard. So it just took a few of us to stand up and speak, and then we felt the strength of everybody else because they felt empowered to stay with us. And that was a cool day. That was a cool day in Amazon, and it felt really, really good.
Yeah, and I think that kind of gets to, like, if you ask someone to sign a petition or you ask someone to walk out, they might agree with it in theory. Like, you ask anyone, do you believe in people power? Do you believe in standing up for what's right, being part of a movement? A lot of people will agree with that theoretically, but
Until it's
Amazon,
time to do it.
well, yeah, but can you blame them? Because a
Yeah, I
lot
know.
of them, yeah, because a lot of them, like Amazon and kind of just society in general, it keeps us so isolated from each other that what reason do we have to trust each other? What reason do I have to believe that if I walk out, other people are going to walk out? And that if we all start getting divided up and retaliated against, what reason do I have to believe that those other people who I walked out with are going to have my back? And so a lot of people, it's like, they might want to do it. They might believe in the cause, but they'll be like, well, I got kids at home and I don't really know these people I'm walking out with, or we haven't been tested and struggled together. Right. So a lot of it is just fear, lack of trust. And then another thing is people just want to feel like it's worth it. Okay, we're going to take this risk together, but what next? Is it worth it? Are we going to get anything out of this? Are we going to win, or is Amazon just going to brush it off? Is this futile? So I think we got to be real that, number one, we have to prove that we can trust each other. We have to prove that we have each other's backs. We just can't say it. But part of that is you actually have to take action together to prove it to each other. So sometimes it might be, a handful of people, not the whole warehouse. It might be, 25 people who walk out or 15 people who walk out. But then people see that and they see those people come back to work the next day and they have each other's backs. They're not getting fired because they're holding Amazon accountable. They know their rights and they're not letting any one of those 15 people just be singled out. Okay. Now people see that next time we walk out, there's going to be twice as many because they see that we mean business. We have each other's backs. And then also when people start seeing that, we didn't win the raise from that walkout. We didn't win this big demand, but we scared Amazon. And people start feeling their power when they see, we scared Amazon. So if we can do it again, but we can do it bigger, we can actually start making those changes. Actually, how do you guys respond when you ask someone, Linda, to sign a petition or to do a walkout? How do you respond to those fears that they present? Those very valid fears that people, like, I've got a kid at home, I can't miss pay, or I've got rent to pay. I can't risk losing this job. It's all I've got, or my mom depends on me.
For me, I think, one of the things that's really important is really like the reason we do this is because we care about each other and we have to understand where people are coming from. Hearing where they're at and then kind of understanding and talking about the fact that we all are concerned about these things. We all have fears for various reasons about engaging in any kind of collective activity to improve our conditions. It is a scary thing. You're stepping out on a limb, but can we continue to live in this way? And what it comes down to is your kid going to be benefited by you continuing to come home late, unable to walk, not really able to make ends meet with this pay, not have decent healthcare that is affordable? I mean, there's so many things that are affecting you and your life and your family right now that you don't even really think about because you're normalizing it and you're thinking about just that next day of pay. But if you're thinking about the bigger picture, and this is what we talk about in our meetings and our organizing committee meetings, is what is it that can actually change when you're engaging in this collective activity? It's transformative. And so, yes, missing one day of pay is absolutely a hardship. And if it's something that's super, it's gonna affect one coworker so much that they absolutely can't do it, and this is really important. And that's when we as a group talk about, okay, what can we do to make sure that that person can come out with us. But we all of these fears and concerns are collective. Like, we need to be able to respond to them as a group. And like I said, I mean, we go back to this because we do this because we care about people, we care about improving conditions for workers everywhere. And so hearing what they're saying, but also being able to push your coworker and say, I hear you. At the same time, if we are individual and divided and allowing Amazon to kind of individually bargain with each of us and tell us how it's going to treat us, it's only going to get worse and worse. We can see it. We've seen it over and over again. And so we can't allow Amazon to individually tell us what it's going to do to us forever. We have to be able to organize together, have each other's backs, and tell Amazon how we are going to allow it to treat us.
Nobody's doing this job for free. I mean, let's be honest, Amazon isn't a bad place to work, but it needs improvements. And having a living wage is important. So if we have to sacrifice a day or half a day to get these concerns met, to make the improvement for every single worker inside of Amazon, I mean, these benefits will benefit everybody outside of the shareholders and outside of having a union built. What's the problem? It doesn't affect the workers. It will improve the workforce. It will improve the quality of work that we do. It only hurts the shareholders. It hurts the people's bottom line. Being relatable, we're not forcing anybody to do anything, but there's only one way to show camaraderie, being together, and getting this done is by building a union, by standing up, and getting, just doing the things right for us. Because if we allow them to take from us over and over, they're going to continue to do so. The working conditions is rough as it is. And if we don't say anything, they're just going to continue to take more from us. Yeah. And that's just not right.
And Kenny, just to get a little personal here, I hear a lot of people say, I've got a daughter, or I've got a kid that I got to take care of. And for me, I don't have kids, but I've always admired you because after you had your daughter last year, you actually stepped up more than I'd ever seen you step up before. And I don't know if it was because you were like furloughed from your electrician job.
Yeah.
But I definitely have seen you stepping up since the birth of your daughter 1 year ago. I've seen you stepping up like I had not seen you step up when we were over at DBK1. You've become much more like a much more prominent leader in this movement. So how do you respond being a new father to when people say, I can't walk out because I've got a kid?
I understand. Again, I have a 1-year-old. I love her to death. You want to do everything for your children. That's first and foremost. But there comes a time that you have to make a stand to fight what we want. Every father, every person with the family wants to leave the world a better place for their children. It's embedded in you. And for us to build something and fight for something like this against the biggest company in the world, to embetter it, you can't ask for anything more than that, Obviously, money's going to come. We all know that. Everybody, and not everybody has a child maybe, but everybody has family members. And to improve a company like Amazon and deserving to so all the workforce that works for them can only embed life going forward. And I'm tired of living paycheck to paycheck or minimum wage. That's not how life should be. We should be able to do things like go on vacations and take some time, for yourselves, for your mental health, for your physical health, because they're going to keep wearing on you and they're going to keep dogging you out until you break. And then what do? They just usher you out and just get somebody else to replace you. That's not how life should be, man, at all.
Yeah.
You saw me when we first got there. I was working 80 hours. I was coming to Amazon during COVID. I was working 35 hours at my other job. It's just, just shouldn't be, man. Just shouldn't be.
Right. I have so much admiration for that. It's insane. I do not understand. I have coworkers that also have full other 40-hour jobs, and I just don't. I'm dead after this job. Like, props to you.
Exhausted.
And if I could summarize in one sentence what you just said, Kenny, it was that you don't view the union, you don't view doing the walkout, you don't view as standing up for what we all deserve. You don't view that as endangering your daughter. You do that in part for your daughter. You do it for your family. You do that for the next generation.
Yeah.
Because this shit, this type of job, this type of lifestyle, this paycheck to paycheck, this isn't it. We deserve better, and our kids deserve better. The whole next generation deserves better, and this generation deserves better too.
And in reality, it's bigger than us. We're trying to improve the life going forward. It might not affect us now, but it will affect the next group of people and the next group of people beyond that. You know, we're already here. We're in the quote unquote shit already. You know, so it's just improving life going forward.
So are people going to snitch us out? How do we deal with snitches?
Yes. So I just want to say that one thing at DMD9 that I felt very proud of is the fact that we were very transparent generally about our organizing. We did not. It's true that when you organize a petition delivery or a walkout, you want them to have as little heads up as possible. And so you're keeping like things like the date kind of within your committee of trusted people. And it makes sense to do that as long as possible. But I think I want to speak to the fact that management will find out at some point. It's very, very unlikely that they're not going to find out in advance. And that's okay. That's actually fine. And I think I'm not saying like go out and advertise it on the streets. Like keeping it secret as much as possible is absolutely a good thing. But I think people get really, really scared when managers find out that we're engaging in collective action soon. They feel like, okay, well, it's doomed now because they already know that it's happening. And that's just not true. It absolutely is effective whether or not they know it's coming. They don't know a lot of aspects of what's coming. And in fact, sometimes, in particular with our walkout, we didn't really hide the fact that this was coming at some point because it really scared them. I mean, management, when they realized we're organizing towards something bigger than some of what our petitions had been, they were on their P's and Q's. They were not doing their stupid writing people up secretly or giving them no real notice. They brought food for us every week or twice a week, or it was a lot. They were very respectful in the way they responded to us. If people brought up concerns, they responded quickly. I mean, it was actually really nice for us in DMD9 when they were scared about our upcoming collective action. That said, again, I don't want to say like go and advertise it in the streets, but I think I just want to speak to the fear that people sometimes have that management might find out. And, you know, at the end of the day, we are not doing anything wrong. It's legally protected, but honestly, even if it were not legally protected, this is the right thing to do. We are on the right side of history. There is absolutely no one that 50, 100 years from now is going to look back and be like, oh yeah, it's great that all of the billionaires were starving their workers and having people live paycheck to paycheck while they had yachts built that could take them from one yacht to another yacht. I mean, that is absolutely not okay. And we are fighting for something that is that's righteous and right and moral, and we are doing something that's good. And historically, in the future, we will be proven that we were on the right side of history. So we should not feel like we're doing something wrong. People often are scared, like they're nervous and they're feeling like, oh, I have to be secretive and whatever. And absolutely about like dates of actions, sure, be secretive, but what you're doing is the right thing to do. And they are wrong. The managers that are trying to divide us and tell us that that's not okay, or that we should individually talk to them because they can handle things better individually, which is a lie and we all know it, they are wrong. They are on the wrong side of history. And so we should not feel scared or embarrassed or nervous about the things that we're doing. We are going to take collective action against Amazon. We're going to do it by supporting each other and having each other's backs, and we're going to win. And Amazon should be scared.
I could not imagine anyone saying it better.
Absolutely.
And also like snitches, there's going to be snitches, and some snitches are well-meaning snitches, right? Like I remember the first petition that we ever did at DBK1. One of our committee members, really fantastic, or I mean, fantastic person, very committed to the organizing. And we were kind of trying to keep the petition on the down low. The very first person that he went to sign was a close friend of his. And that person saw the petition, hightailed it to management, and was like, "Is it all right if I sign this petition?" Within 5 minutes of us launching the petition, we had been snitched out. But this person wasn't snitching to counter organize us. They weren't trying to stop the petition. They just got a little bit spooked, and they wanted to check with management to see if it was all right. And of course, management, they broke the law and told them, you better not sign that petition. It's better if you don't. That's illegal for management to say that. They did it anyway. And another friend of someone on our committee, within half an hour, they also went to management, and they tried to like broker a peace between us and management, and like be the ones to get us to sit down at a table and just, chop it up and come out with a hug. And, he was just trying to play peacemaker. So like a lot of snitches, they're not trying to be snitches. They're not trying to hurt you. They're not trying to throw you under the bus or get you disciplined. They're trying to do what they think is right. They're just misguided in that, or they're scared, and that's fine. Other snitches, they know what they're doing. They're big kiss asses. They're looking to be the next manager of the site. So they want to show management whose side they're on, and, they'll snitch you out. But in all those cases, no harm, no foul. Like if management knows what we're doing, we're still going to do it, and we're still going to win. And so those snitches, when I see them, I talk to them very friendly. A lot of them, I'll joke about what we're watching on TV or whatever. I just don't tell them the details of the walkout or the details of the strike. I just don't tell them the sensitive details. If people snitch on you, in a sense, that's good, because now you know who the snitches are, and you know who you can trust with information and who you can't. And you know what? Sometimes down the road, you'll win the snitches over, because they weren't trying to be assholes. They weren't trying to be snitches. They just didn't know. And sometimes you win them over to the cause, and then they'll become supporters. Sometimes they'll apologize, and welcome them in. Welcome those people who recognize that what they did, was maybe a little misguided. It wasn't the right thing to do. And they'll come and they'll join the cause. I've seen it happen. And even the people who are kissing management's asses, even the people who know they're snitching, eventually they realize that they might give a shit about Amazon, but Amazon doesn't give a shit about them. A lot of times they come over to our side as well.
Absolutely. That's for sure.
Kenny, when I first started talking union to you at DBK1 over at our last site, this was before we had walked out over there. You told me that you'd been on strike with your previous union.
Get it. We're finished.
I'm just saying you came into this already knowing the union effect, already knowing the power of collective action, of solidarity.
I've been doing that for 20 years. We've walked through the labor parades. We've walked down on Wall Street. We've done countless. I can't even count how many times that we protested. Just in front of the rats, in front of people just trying to get away with things here and there. It's been fun. I got so many brothers, during that time that, I still speak to this day. And we're always there for each other. Local 3 is extremely huge on that. And, it started with my uncle, who was the first person in my family to get into Local 3, and then his son, and then myself. And it's been an amazing thing, I mean, it's not perfect. Nothing really is. But to stand up for our rights, there's not too many things better, man.
And you want to talk a little bit about maybe our walkout, what it felt like to be part of the walkout at DBK1?
Yeah, that whole walkout for DBK1 was funny, because I didn't even know what was happening. And you was like, "Hey, Ken, do you want to walk out?" Like, fuck it. Yeah, like it was good, man. It just, again, it was supposed to be more people. A lot of people said that they were going to do something, but I'm a big person that you got to stand on what you say you're going to do. So when other people didn't decide to do it, I did. I just grabbed my stuff and we walked outside. We stood out there, and we was on camera, answered some questions of why we're doing it. which is to benefit everybody who's working inside that warehouse, and not everybody sees it. And obviously, if you're a manager there, Amazon does a great job of brainwashing you, trying to control the situation so you can't act. When in reality, we're fighting for them as well to improve the work-life balance for everybody inside Amazon. It's a very simple thing, and Amazon does a fantastic job of squashing that narrative, keeping you separated so you guys can't band together and actually get the things you need to do to improve your life. What, like 20, 25 people decided to walk out that day?
Yeah, there was 20.
Like a third?
Yeah,
like
about
a third
20.
of the work site?
Yeah, there was 27 of us who walked out. And we did this last break. So, 2 hours left of the shift. Yeah. We walked out with about a third of the warehouse, a little bit more than a third of the warehouse. They were unable to finish the last 2 trucks full of packages. We went out there and we picketed for a while. We had some people from the media show up, some supporters. We did some chants, but then we headed over to the smaller warehouse, ZYO1, where this was only 15 people on the shift. There was only 15 people on the shift, very small warehouse. And they had about half of their warehouse walk out and join us as well. And that was halfway through their shift, and they obviously weren't able to get their work done either. So at the very same time that we were doing that, and, this was in Queens, New York, Linda, at your warehouse, y'all were preparing to walk out there as well. But up in Queens, New York, we had, as we were headed over to ZYO1, the smaller warehouse, with our crew of 25, 30 of us, and then a few supporters in the media, we were joined by some community members and members of other unions, maybe 20 of them, and we set up a picket line outside ZYO1, and that's when they walked out as well.
When we walked out in DBK1, they act like nothing ever happened. They didn't even talk about it. They didn't even mention it. How was Washington after when you guys walked out there? The next day, they act like nothing happened?
Yeah, well, yeah, they did the exact same tactic at ours, where they tried to act like nothing happened. When we came in, it was clear that they had prepped the PAs and the managers to come and say, "Oh, we got done early yesterday, no problem. It was fine, But what was funny about it was we were there for the whole day. So we didn't leave right after we walked out. We were out there picketing until the end of the day. We could see the routes. So the routes definitely were not full routes. And then when you come back into work, you could see the work that was left over from the day before. So they're clearly lying to us and saying, "Oh, this is," but but that's what they're like. They were prepped to do that. It's very clear. Like, they were trying to say, like, "Oh, this is no problem." But what we were doing was the counter narrative of, "No, look, like, we were right there. We could see it with our own eyes, the way that we disrupted the work." And if nothing else, every manager was out there doing pick and stage, which, it can't hurt them to be in our shoes for once.
Yes, I agree.
What does Amazon do when we take action is a lot of times they pretend it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, what their job is, they try to separate everybody, and they have individual conversations. They don't want to, deal with anything that has to do with a group. So if we're in a group setting, they don't want to deal with that. But they want to separate everybody and attack you that way. And they've done that when we did the petition, and they came to us individually instead of coming to us together. I guess they don't want to acknowledge us as the group, so they try to, take care of us individually and stuff like that. So I know they do that as a tactic.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't want to confront us as a group because they know that's where we have power. And when we actually do hit them where it hurts, when we do say walk out, and 2 truckloads of packages don't go out because we walk out, or 3 truckloads of packages don't go out because we walk out, they've got to call in 20 managers from other sites to come help them finish the work. They pretend it didn't happen, or they pretend it was no big deal, because they want to deny that we have that power. They want to pretend that we can't hurt them. The reality is they do feel it.
Oh, no question they do. If we're off by a little bit now, they feel it, and they ask, for the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, they've been asking people to stay extra hour, and we're not even leaving yet. So it affects them. No question about it. It does.
But yeah, so when we did those walkouts last year at DBK1, Linda, what were y'all doing down in Maryland?
In Maryland, we were also preparing to walk out. So we all, those, our three warehouses all walked out together on that day. We, previous to that, had been meeting each other over Zoom and talking about our shared concerns. And we had the shared demand of a raise and for a real break time. And we went to work that morning. We had been engaging, like doing a lot of prep around that, people doing a walkout pledge sheet and talking to each other about the concerns that they had and what we would do. We also had community support come out to support us. And at our lunch break time, we went to present our demands to our regional manager who was visiting. He refused to listen to us or accept the demands or even talk to us at all. He said, just as they all do, I will only talk to you individually. And then he said, well, you have to go back to work. And we said, absolutely not. We're here to talk about these concerns. You do not get to finish the day business as usual if you're ignoring the real concerns that, like, huge, significant majority in this warehouse have signed a petition saying these are concerns for us. And so we called for the walkout, and we went around making sure that folks knew what was happening. And then we walked out to the community support. We had, I don't know the exact number of people on shift that day, but we had 31 people walk out, which was a majority of people, to the point where they did have to reroute packages, and the managers did have to do pick and stage for the whole time. And we were out there rallying. We had folks from all over Maryland, come down from New Jersey, coming around from everywhere to come and support us from various unions and community support organizations, people that just knew us. It was very fun. We had a sound system. We had folks bring out food. It was like a party outside while the managers were inside working. And it was a very inspiring experience. It was a moment when we walked out, one, you find out the people that are really together with you, and it's sometimes surprising. And I realized we had a huge amount of our coworkers that really did support us. Maybe they weren't as loud inside about supporting us, but when it came down to it, we had each other's backs. And it was young people, it was old people, it was medium people, all types, that all walked out together and had each other's backs, which only really would have only happened because we had been building this kind of solidarity between each other for a while. Folks that stood up, and we prepped everything up until the leaving the station, like when we walked out. And then I realized when we walked out that we had no idea what we were going to do after that. So we did have a sound system. And so some coworkers, completely impromptu, did not have any prep for this, took the mic, kind of talked about some of the reasons that they had walked out. It was super inspiring to the crowd. We had some of the crowd come and speak about how they supported us. We had a Catholic priest from Baltimore that came and said, he's here to support us and will be out there marching on the line with us anytime we take action. And it was an incredibly transformative and amazing experience for us. I would say the ones of us that are still there that walked out together, we have this deep bond that a lot of our coworkers don't really understand, because it's something that we really engaged in struggle together. And it's something it changed the dynamic. And we were talking a little bit about, they tried to pretend like there wasn't that much going on, or that the managers rather tried to downplay the action, but it really did make a huge impact. The change of how management approached us for a long time afterwards was with just respect and being a lot more just listening to us in ways that they never had before, responding to our concerns immediately. And again, but at the same time, trying to downplay the fact that our action had done any of this. And so they were doing these roundtables and asking us how we felt about the job and whatever. And they would never admit that they were doing the roundtables because of our actions. But it at that point was really obvious that they were scared, they were nervous, they didn't understand really how we were able to organize this kind of thing when they were organizing. The management was trying to organize against it, and yeah, we should continue to ride on that wave, because I think that's something that will continue to be true. That people who are in management and their tool is to divide people in order to get their job done will not really ever really understand us and our righteous struggle and our solidarity with each other. And the fact that we understand that through collective action is the only way that we gain dignified conditions of work.
When we did that walkout, we had maybe 5 demands. I cannot remember what all of them were. We ended up pretty quickly winning a couple of those demands. For instance, one of our demands was to have an appeals policy for people who had been disciplined or terminated, that they had an appeals policy where they could appeal that discipline or termination. Fulfillment centers have had these for a long time, and they're not great. They're not perfect, but delivery stations didn't have them at all. And so one of our demands was to have an appeals process so that we could challenge our disciplinary write-ups or terminations. We got that fairly quickly, and it's kind of bullshit, but it has saved some people's jobs. So it doesn't go all the way, but that's an improvement. We also demanded an inclement weather policy, so that Amazon implement something to sort of deal with the fact that severe weather is becoming more and more common. And they ended up implementing like an alert system. It still doesn't go all the way. And then, there were a couple other things that we won partially. Amazon made these little tweaks and changes, and it was improvements. Oh, and the understaffing thing. Management was refusing to give us this very important position at work. They were refusing to implement it, called the splitter. Not to get too in depth for people who don't know what that is, but it's a job where if there's not someone there doing it, it makes the jobs of everyone downstream from them, everyone who comes after them on the belt, makes their job extremely difficult. And management kept telling us, oh, we don't need splitters. We don't need splitters. We don't need splitters. That was never even a job, they would tell us. But we demanded, we as workers know what we need to work safe. And having a splitter is one of those things. After our walkout, management changed their policy to write a splitter into the staffing, the staff, the program. So we had a few significant wins, some that didn't go all the way, but the really big ones like a raise, we didn't really win that. Some of the things that were really animating people walking out, we didn't really win that yet. So it raises this question, like these big actions that take a lot of effort to organize, a lot of courage. What do we actually win by doing them?
I mean, I can just say for me, I think that what's obvious in what we win after collective action is power. We build our own ability to demand things and for management to listen and respond quickly. And I think, we did have some significant wins through collective action, like the phone policy that Amazon was going to try to take away our phones and not allow us to have phones for emergencies on the floor. And when we organized a collective action around that, they immediately reversed that policy and allowed us to keep our phones. That, those are that's a huge win for everyone in Amazon. But it's a material thing. It's like one kind of thing. It's like a raise. These are great. Like these change people's lives, but they ultimately, what we're doing when we organize collective action and we use our position as workers to disrupt the work that we're doing for bosses who make a lot of money, is that we're building our power and our ability to say, no, you can't continue to break down our bodies for your profit. We actually are humans and dignified, and we have the right to stand up for our conditions. And ultimately, Amazon, I think every single one of us that works for Amazon understands at our core that Amazon does not care about us. They will replace us tomorrow, if that minute, if they can. And so, and anyone, by the way, I don't know if either of you have experienced this, but this has happened multiple times in DMD9 where people pass out and they don't even turn off the line. Or if they do, the first concern that they have is to turn it back on. Not how do we get an ambulance? How do we get the person off the floor? Like none of that. It's how do we get the product moving again? And so when we understand that there's no amount of begging and asking that is going to move Amazon to care about us. So what we're doing is really protecting our lives by building this power. Engaging in collective action builds power for us and means that they're not as able to take our power away from us and individualize us and treat us any kind of way that they want to.
I mean, on our side, we had somebody literally have a seizure on the line, and they just kind of ushered them off to the side and just kept, things going like nothing ever happened. It's just, and then they promote that safety is their number one concern, and that is a flat out lie.
Yeah.
In every aspect, and getting into safety, that's a whole other issue that I believe that we should have an independent person outside of Amazon deal with safety issues like OSHA to fix a lot of those issues, because they just hire a person inside Amazon, quote unquote, to take care of safety stuff, and they listen to Amazon. So OSHA needs to be involved or something like that, so they can issue a lot of fines to Amazon. That's the only way we're going to improve safety in the warehouse, period. And that's from when we receive packages. There's supposed to be a line that you're not supposed to have packages above it, and there's packages above it at every stage of it. And they open up and they fall on you, and if you hurt yourself or a box falls on you, they take you upstairs. They turn on the Zoom thing. They ask the person on the other side of the Zoom call, what's your level of pain? Like, it's just, it's a joke when they talk about safety as their number one concern. They don't care about us. They care about the bottom line that they receive every day. And we all know it.
Yeah. And Kenny, just to kind of push back against something you said, that the only way is to have an outside body like OSHA come and slap fines on them. Using the example of, we said we needed a splitter, and we said that was a matter of safety. Yes. We know that we can't work safe as pick-to-buffers or whatever unless we have a splitter helping us out. And I remember very specifically management would say, well, we've determined that you can safely work without a splitter. And we said, we're the ones doing the work. We know what we need to be safe. And that was one of our demands when we walked out, is safe staffing. We framed it as safe staffing, but the real thing we were really highlighting was safe staffing includes making sure each line has a splitter. That was something we identified as what we needed to be safe. And we walked out and took action to insist that we get that. And we stopped doing the work until we got it. And the response was that we got it. So we don't actually need OSHA to come in and slap a fine on them. We need ourselves organized in a union capable of, taking action and recognizing that we are the ones who know what we do the work. We know what we need to be safe, and we will take action to impact Amazon's bottom line. And we will refuse to do that work unless we get it done, unless we get what we need to do it safely.
No, I 100% agree. I remember during that whole the splitter conversation, that's when I wrote on the VOA board. Well, I cursed on the VOA board and, about working smarter, not harder. And having a splitter makes everything easier on the line. So having a splitter takes away from jackpot. It takes away from it. Just little things like that can make a huge difference on the day, on the stress level that each individual person is dealing with. It's just little things here and there. But again, Amazon, will look past stuff. They'll do shortcuts to just to make the number look good. And I don't know if the number's looking good, increased bonuses for all the managers there. I don't know their pay structure or anything like that. But VTOing is terrible because they're not asking us to take on more work. They're just doing it. And then we have to, the people who are left there have to deal with it. And this is not fair for everybody there at all. It's not safe. It's not healthy for us. It burns us out. And this has to stop.
Yeah. And that for me gets to what do we really win by organizing, by taking action together? And it's like Linda said, it's power. We shift the balance of power in the warehouse. We spend the majority of our waking lives in these damn warehouses. And these warehouses are dictatorships of management. And the only way to change that is for us to organize so that we are the ones with the power and we are the ones who call the shots. So organizing a walkout where only 25 people participate, that already starts shifting the balance of power in the warehouse. It already starts challenging that dictatorship of management. And it already starts giving us a little bit of control over our lives where we spend the majority of our waking hours. And then beyond that, let's say 25 people walk out this time. Well, you know what? A lot of people, they're going to see that we walked out, we came back, we're there, we're not fired, we've got each other's backs, we're more confident and we're better for it. And the warehouse is better for it. And next time it's going to be 35 people. And then next time it's going to be 50 people. And eventually it's to the point where every single time the management refuses to give us what we need to do our job safely, the work doesn't get done because we walk out. The goal is to walk out with the whole warehouse anytime that we need, until we can sort of collectively say to management, if you want to reliably be putting packages on doorsteps in New York City, if you want to be able to do that and keep promises to your customers and keep promises to your shareholders, you've actually got to do it on our terms. You've got to go through us, and you've got to do it in ways that are agreeable to us. If you want to put packages on doorsteps, you need to sit down at the table and give us what we need and give us what we deserve. That's what we have to win. That's what we win by walking out, is we win power.
Couldn't have said it better.
Hell yeah.
Word. Cool. All right. This has been a new episode of Amazon Unpacked, talking about worker power, strikes, walkouts, petitions, how we take action and fight back. My name is Ira, and I've been joined here with Linda and Kenny.
Solidarity, y'all.
Solidarity. Be safe, y'all.